Hello, it's Conscious Truth TV, and boy, oh boy, do we ever have a juicy episode for you today.
Oh, it's true, y'all. It's all about white privilege during the pandemic. So it's juicy, and you know it's also about to get real spicy up in here.
Right? And for the next couple weeks, what could be better than a whole series on pandemic privilege points? We're doing it not just for the alliteration, although a little bit, but also because this is a conversation that people just aren't having. So better subscribe now so you don't miss a beat.
Yes. All right, let's dig right in. Okay, our first point, just like that, our first point of white pandemic privilege is centered in some bad decision making, let's call it. The anti-lockdown protests, you know, the ones where everyone's going to the street and yelling, open it up, that sort of thing, exemplifies white privilege. Number one, there's this idea that the lockdown is an equal opportunity killer. So let's just take a step back right there. We know that economically, this lockdown is not affecting us all the same way. And it's not affecting our racial groups the same way, where we live. Come on, equal opportunity?
Absolutely not.
So also, there's this total disregard for science. We need real science, y'all. And an ignorance to the fact that Black men, for example, are, dying at over four times the rate of their white counterparts in this pandemic. And finally, you certainly don't see a whole lot of people of color when you watch those videos of those protests, do you? It's pretty much a sea of white folks.
Yeah, and to build on that last point, being a sea of white folks, if there were to be a large gathering of people of color, let's say Black people or Asian people right now protesting the stay-home mandate, protesting the lockdown that many of us in our country are under, you better believe that the police would come so quickly and that they might even use force to break up that gathering. That is systemic racism at work and anti-Blackness at work. And these MFs don't even think about the privilege that they have being white to be able to protest right now, and also protesting for very, very wrong reasons. Plus communities that believe in science, like, I don't know, the four communities run by the sister mayors, Chicago, San Francisco, Atlanta, and here in New Orleans. Those cities would break this up in a heartbeat because they are not listening to the pandering of the white population, who are putting so many lives at risk by what they're doing. They would shut down Karen. They would shut down all of Karen's friends.
Yes, exactly as they should. Which brings me to our second point of white pandemic privilege over here, which is centered in economic well-being. The average white family wealth in America is 6 times greater than the average Black family's wealth in America. Let that wash over you.
I did. And here I am. That means, to put this into context with what we're going through as a country and as a world right now, access to quality food, access to adequate healthcare, access to living on non-contaminated land, breathing non-contaminated air is much more likely to happen for white families than it is to happen for Black families. And so in the US, from a historical perspective, we can trace this all the way back to Jim Crow, which I know a lot of you out there have heard of. Jim Crow had these credit system regulations that allowed a multitude of white families to build wealth after all of their losses during the Civil War.
Oh, God. I know that fact, but then every time it comes up, something else comes up. Anyway, what's the final point of our white pandemic privilege, Nady?
So sorry, I was just throwing up a little bit. So our final point is about emotional labor. You know, those conversations that you have with someone where you're like, why am I doing all the work for you? I leave a conversation with you and I just feel so drained. So this is specifically for white people. You'll know if you are, well, white that we're describing here. You're leading a really insular life. So maybe your name is Becky and all of your friends are the same shade of ecru that you are. Or maybe like you just can blindfold yourself and throw a stick and hit somebody that looks identical to you in the mirror.
Yeah, same shade of ecru or eggshell white, whichever one you prefer. Well, I don't know your life. But these white people might not have any friends of color. And if they do, perhaps it's just those one or two token friends of color. Yeah.
No, no. And because this pandemic is impacting people of color, in particular Black people,
Hmm.
substantially more than whites, there's both, number one, this false sense of security that everything is fine because, number two, they don't know anybody who's passed related to COVID-19. Or in some cases, they might not even know anybody who's been infected by this.
Which is wild. So, because if you don't
Right.
have those things happening in your life, you're liable to not take it as seriously as you
Exactly.
could or should. And if they do have friends of different races who are undoubtedly experiencing this pandemic a little differently than they
Right.
are, they might put the labor on them to explain their emotions, which is not fair.
That is not at all fair. I'm so sorry. I just had to have a moment there and forgot that I was supposed to say something.
Honey, you and me both. So, all right, this brings us to a close of another riveting episode, if we do so ourselves, of
Right.
Conscious Roots TV. And we do. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, please, so you don't miss a single episode.
Because I got so excited, I just choked on my spit.
No!
New episodes drop every single Thursday. So you want to check that out. And also follow us at Conscious Roots LLC on Facebook and Instagram, because we know you love this video. You want more of us. And we put out a lot more content that's aligned with what you just saw on those platforms.
Yes. All right. As always, y'all, thank you for tuning in and thanks for being you.
Bye.
Bye.